Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to the School of Radiance podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Varga, a humble human on a mission, here to help you both look and feel your best. Well, as a longtime listener, there's a few things that I like to do to take care of my skin, and that includes lasers. And in today's episode, we are going to be speaking on some different technologies that are really disrupting the industry. So this interview right here today is essentially the first look on what's called the Halo TRIBRID, the most disruptive skin laser technology yet. Full disclosure, I actually teach and present for Sciton. I've gotten to know the company behind the scenes. I had my BBL heroic just last week for my birthday, which is why I have a little bit of a glow here as well. And we have a very special guest to talk about the science behind Sciton's technology and how it is literally changing the game in the world of medical aesthetics, skin health, and of course, longevity. So today we have joining us a Sciton executive and board member, Rob Brindley. He's the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Sciton, a company that makes aesthetic and medical laser products. He is also the company's board of directors. He's also on the company's board of directors and has worked there for over 20 years, starting as a territory manager. Welcome to the show, Rob Brindley. How are you today? And of course, what is Radiance to you?
Today, I'm fantastic. It's an absolute honor to be on this podcast with you, Rachel. I'm a big fan of your work. And Radiance, to me, gratitude. At Sciton, we live, eat, breathe, and sleep a culture of gratitude. We understand that for us to be where we are today as the largest privately held laser manufacturer in the world, it's because of all of the amazing supporters, providers, and customers that have gotten us to this point. And it's just an honor to be able to share our mission and to be in this moment with you. So I'm super grateful. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And this notion of feeling blessed, I've been very blessed to get to know Sciton behind the scenes and really feel that family vibe. And, for listeners, I've been in the industry since 2011. I've worked with a number of companies over the years, and there's something very special about your company that you work with and just the straight up innovation, especially with last year with launching the BBL Heroic and now this year launching the Halo TRIBRID. You really are changing the game in the med spa industry. So I would love for you to share with everybody tuning in here, what really kind of is your role at Sciton, your expertise, and your impact in the medical aesthetics and laser world?
Well, I'm happy to dive right in. First off, at Sciton, we are not big on titles. So my title actually is Sciton Leader. And on my Instagram handle, you'll see Aesthetic Industry Historian and as well as Laser OG. I've been doing this from the moment I graduated from college. I got right into the business of beauty. This was in about 2002. Got right in working with my father and his medical distributorship based in the Minneapolis marketplace. And from that time forward, it's been such a treat to be at the same company for over 2 decades of my life, having the opportunity to serve and help people in every faculty. Our mission at Sciton simply is to improve people's lives. And that mission starts with our own team members and our own employees and creating an environment for people, like myself over the years to be in a position where they can grow, they can evolve, they can spread their wings, and they can really chase their dreams and advance a career in what I think is the most exciting industry of all, which is the beauty business, the skin health business, and to grow. But in addition to that, it's to improve the lives of our customers and the patients they serve, or the clients that they serve. I love to talk about how in this pursuit, we have a very, very, very serious job, and really it starts with our why. People may think at surface level, lasers and lights and helping people look younger, it's just about looking good. Well, the reality is yes, we can help people look good. We can help people look as good as they feel. We can help them build their confidence. Because when you look good, You feel good. But the real why behind it is this is a tough world we live in. It's not easy. There's a lot of garbage happening around the globe. So when you actually have the ability to help people look good and then they feel good, they do good. And when you do good, I think that has the ability to ripple in eternity. You have the ability to bring smiles to other faces. You have the ability to bring confidence to everybody around you. And the world needs more of that. And so that's been our pursuit over time. And, I love skin. I love lasers and light. And I love Sciton and our mission to improve people's lives.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you listening, might be like, oh, he's talking on behalf of the company he works with. I have felt this feeling from this company. And what you just shared, Robbie, is my mission as well. It's how can we be our most radiant versions? And what I like about laser technology, and there's the Ferrari of lasers or the Bugattis, and then there's the Hyundais of lasers. There's a lot of gimmicks out there. There's a lot of different technologies at different price points that clinics can purchase. In my opinion, Sciton is the best. I'm happy to say that publicly, which is why I was so happy when your team reached out to me, because you are innovative. And with your background, what you just shared is something really interesting. Just personally, I'd love to unpack this a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
You've had stability. So when we are in a stable, healthy environment, we can live our purpose. We can be disruptors in a really good way. And that's exactly what the legacy of Sciton is. So let's jump into why Sciton chooses to invest in technologies that really push boundaries.
One of our go-to taglines is because results matter. And what's fascinating is that Sciton, we were founded in 1997 by two laser physicists, Dr. Jim Hobart and Dr. Dan Negus. And Jim in particular, both of them are incredibly instrumental in all of our daily activities and our future purpose. But the history there is in the 60s, Jim founded Coherent Medical. Coherent Medical at this point in time is a multi-billion-dollar company. Jim founded this company in Silicon Valley and invented and commercialized the first skin laser, the CO2 laser. So he created the CO2 laser, the Ultra Pulse at the time with Dan. That was the first commercial entry for utilizing a laser for full scope skin revitalization, complete changes to the skin to make individuals look better. And it was an amazing sensation. But over time, after Coherent went public, the direction from the board and really became how to cut corners versus how to make the best technology the money can buy. And with that, Jim and Dan founded Sciton in 1997, and they took a step away from that prior environment and brought it right back to what matters most, which is making technology that lasts, making technology that does beautiful things for skin. And that was our foundation. And with that, they created the first dual mode 2940 nanometer erbium YAG laser to get away from all of the garbage and the issues associated with the traditional full field CO2 lasers at the time, which was tunability, a reduction in morbidity, being able to be superficial as well as deep, every step in between. And they did so on a platform that is expandable for the future. All of our systems can be added to and built upon. We eliminate the concern of obsolescence. So quite simply what that means is if you bought one of our original generation Halo devices about a decade ago, you could take that exact same device, refresh it, make it current, and expand it to capture what is today the most state-of-the-art triple wavelength resurfacing laser, Halo TRIBRID. And part of this journey is I have the opportunity to really get hands-on with our commercialization effort, the intersection of sales, marketing, how we not only bring beautiful technology to the world, but how we can encapsulate it with powerful consumer branding that resonates and provides our customers the benefit of differentiation. And that's something I'm super, super thankful to be able to be a part of, something I'm really, really proud of, because it's one thing to have a device that does amazing things. It's another thing to be differentiated in a crowded marketplace with a lot of noise and a lot of confusion. And what we found through our hard work, pioneering some of the strongest brands in skin, including BBL, Heroic, including Moxie, including Halo, which is now Halo TRIBRID, what we found is it really affords our owners a unique distinction in the market, because patients that are well researched know Sciton, an American company where we build all of our devices by hand in Palo Alto, in Silicon Valley, they know that they can expect quality. Over 95% of the devices we've ever built in the history of our enterprise are still clinically relevant today, which is there's nobody within a hemisphere of that, but they know the consumer, from the individual that's investing in a Sciton for their equipment, they know they're going to get devices that work, they're going to get devices that last. But what's happened now, especially with the advent of the informed consumer, thanks to things like social media, people understand that when they want a particular brand, they want the brand and everything that goes with it, the reliability, the quality, the proven experience. And that's just been a really big advance for Sciton over the time, over my time here. And I did a little bit. I addressed the second question and brought it back to your first question. But again, there's just so much to talk about.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we really are on this knife's edge, if you will, of the advancement of biologically. How can we feel our best? How can we slow aging? So, when you're doing all the foundations, for those of you listening who are longtime listeners, you've heard me talk about reducing inflammation on all fronts before even doing rejuvenation to get the best results. That's still holding true. But what I want to really highlight is how one of your technologies, it's more comfortable, it's faster. I had mine last week and I love the results. You're also in West Palm Beach, and I had the pleasure of snowbirding there one year. And yeah, we get a little bit of sun because getting outside, enjoying the sunshine is, I think it's good to do. It's good to be out in nature. And now with the fall winter, this is considered a laser rejuvenation season. This is the time to undo some of those signs of damage. So I'd love to shift gears to the BBL Heroic for a moment here. And tell us a little bit about how last year in 2024, this changed the game completely in the skin rejuvenation space. And we'll differentiate between, is BBL, IPL laser? No, it's not. The Halo TRIBRID technically is. But I'd love for you to share with everybody, because there's a lot of information, as you mentioned, specifically with what people see on social media of like, what tech is good? Should I get this at home
Sure.
IPL? Or do I go into the clinic and spend much more money, but what's the difference in results? Because if you think about this for a second, some of these at-home ads that you're probably seeing for these technologies that you plug in and charge from home, they're not going to be anywhere near as efficient and the results as what you're going to get in a physician-led clinic. So tell us about BBL Heroic and how this has been basically an evolution and a complete game changer in the skin rejuvenation spaces. And in particular, the speed, the energy, the cooling, the safety, the results, pigmentation, vascular lesions, just overall skin revitalization. You can probably see my glow from mine last week. And just kind of what's also the perspective of those who are actually doing the treatments with the tech too?
You do have a nice glow, and I'm gonna say it's that time of year, laser season. Everybody's ready for a glow up. Everybody's ready to undo some of the sins of summer, if you will. One thing that's a little controversial is laser season is really 365, 24/7. Like it's year round. So, like for example, in areas that bear a lot of sun, like in Florida, the aesthetic volume coming in, the patients coming in for lasers, it stays pretty constant. But now when we do get into areas of the Midwest where we do have, in North, where you do have a window of summer months where people are very active in their lifestyles, doing wonderful things, being on the boat, getting on the beach, being out there living life, that in general leads to this laser season phenomenon, which is people coming out of the woodwork once the kids go back to school or once we get past this Labor Day window, wanting to get cleaned up, especially for the busy holiday season. And BBL Heroic is one of a kind, state of the art, and very excited to teach you about that. The foundation for BBL Heroic comes from our R&D think tank. Our R&D think tank, research and development think tank, is full of some of the best minds in the world with laser physicists, engineers, and folks that have dedicated their lives to the science of photons and how we can harness this energy to do beautiful things with tissue, with lasers and light. And in particular, BBL Heroic was something we've been working on for, prior to the release last year, we were working on it for a good 7 years in the lab, perfecting this technology. And how this came about was really, really simple. We introduced broadband light, our BBL, in right about 2004, 2005. And at that time, it was, the best in class, ahead of the pack. But basically what you do is you deliver single pulses to the skin. So as you wanted to treat a global area, you take a waveguide and you'd pulse and you'd pulse and you'd pulse and you'd pulse. And this delivery, Jim Hobart was very mindful of how do we go from manual, pedestrian, pulse placement, which to this day, that's what all of our competitors do. To this day, with manual pulse placement, you have the untold side effects or the undesirable side effects of irregular energy deposition, uneven coverage, because we're not robots. We're not going to always deliver it perfectly. So in many instances, you can overtreat people or undertreat people, which isn't desirable. So as we've moved forward, Jim wanted to make this a automated delivery treatment. And we looked at a lot of different ways to do this, all the way up to robots, which is still something that's we're researching in the lab. But we created a sophisticated system where Heroic enables us to offer the cosmetic marketplace autodynamic pulsing. And basically what that means is that within space and time, there's a sophisticated system using an arm that communicates with the handpiece and advanced computers that see exactly where you've pulsed, and they automatically pulse the system for you. So rather, as a practitioner, rather than going like this, you simply move the handpiece like this, and the machine delivers all of the energy for you perfectly. Above and beyond that, you can even control the percentage of overlap. So depending on the clinical indication, if you want a little bit more heat deposition, you have the ability to increase the overlap to tighten up those pulses. But what we've really achieved is perfect pulse light delivery every single treatment that enables practitioners to treat more safely, to treat quicker, to adjust the degree overlap so that you can get better results with BBL Heroic than you can with any other intense pulse light technologies out there. And intense pulse light is generic nomenclature that really encapsulates all of our competition. Broadband light is our trademark. There are some devices overseas that utilize that, but that is absolutely our trademark. And what we have with BBL Heroic is automated pulse delivery that enables the practitioners to do things they never have been able to do before for safety, speed, results. But also in clinics, you reduce the level or reduce the variability when you go from practitioner to practitioner. And what I mean by that is you could have a busy clinic that has a very experienced user. They get super busy and they want to add more throughput, so they hire a new provider or a new practitioner that doesn't have experience. And you can see a tremendous gap in the results between the experienced provider and the results between the new provider. Not anymore. This narrows that gap. In fact, it eliminates that gap because the system does all the work for you. Coupled with that, we introduced additional wavelengths. Pulse light, we use all of the beautiful light across the visible spectrum, Roy G. Biv, just like we learned in school. And depending on the wavelength, it has a different target or a different chromophore or a different mechanism of action. So for example, you could use one wavelength, like a 420 nanometer blue light wavelength, which is great for reducing P. acnes bacteria on the surface of the skin, which is fantastic for acne, okay? You could use a 560 nanometer light, which is great for reducing inflammation if you wanted to use it for that acneic patient. Or it's also been proven to do well for treating vasculature, redness. So different wavelengths do different things. And with our broadband light system, we provide all the visible wavelengths necessary for our practitioners to create an artistic response. And with Heroic, we introduced two brand new applications, two brand new wavelengths with our 532 nanometer green light wavelength, replicating a KTP style treatment, but in a much faster, comfortable, uniform delivery system, along with our 640S nanometer skin smooth wavelength, which is just great for rapid refreshes and skin firming. What I love about the 532 nanometer wavelength is it's so highly absorbed in melanin, and it also has a beautiful sweet spot for redness that our new system, where our prior system, people would use a 515 wavelength and a 560 wavelength over multiple passes to achieve a similar response. We found that this one wavelength is a sweet spot for browns and reds. It does fantastic work. And it was something that we've had on the bench forever. But the prior delivery systems, it was way too hot. So we found that by virtue of how highly absorbed in melanin the 532 nanometer was, with these older delivery systems with the single spot manual placement and all the user error, we found that the margin of error for safety wasn't within our comfort zone. So it was a complete breakthrough thanks to Heroic's perfect pulse placement, thanks to our ability also to turn the energy down to the fact where we can adjust it in half joule increments. So very minor gradations of change. It enabled us the ability to harness this very powerful wavelength of light to change the game. And so, a bunch of these wonderful benefits that we've seen with Heroic. And, I think the best of all is just better results.
Absolutely. And when we think about, okay, what are our skin goals, right? We want clear skin. So as you mentioned, taking care of the reds and the browns and broken capillaries, we can achieve that using light technology, which is very exciting. And I've actually been receiving these kind of treatments for well over a decade now myself, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, how to kind of combine all of these things in a rejuvenation plan and a rejuvenation journey. But thanks for sharing with everybody some of the technical nuances of wavelengths and nanometers and what does what. So essentially what I love about the BBL Heroic is that it gives that sort of magic eraser look to the skin. And last week I actually did essentially my entire upper body. I did
Bingo.
my face, neck,
Bingo.
chest, arms, hands, and back. This is something that I choose to do for myself every single year because I like to have clear looking skin. Now, if we shift to glassy skin, now we're going to be getting into tissue repair and tissue remodeling. So those are, some of the two biggest things that we want to consider when we're looking at rejuvenating our skin. We want to clear the imperfections, say the reds and the browns. And then we also desire to have a thicker skin and glassier skin. So let's talk about the Halo TRIBRID that just came out actually last week. And as soon as I heard this was coming out, I was like, Robbie, we got to get you on the show to talk about this because this is truly a first look for everybody tuning into this episode here on what the Halo TRIBRID really is. So how is it different from the original Halo? And what does that TRIBRID mean? What are the three synergistic energy modalities that's happening in a single laser treatment and why it's so disruptive to the medical aesthetics and rejuvenation industry.
It has been such a delight to introduce TRIBRID. We introduced it on September 3rd. This past weekend at Skin CEO Boosted in Chicago, we had a capacity crowd where we did a formal public launch. We had 550 guests from across the United States and the world, for that matter, that had the opportunity to learn about the technology as the first that in a front row seat, but also put it through its paces with hands-on application. And I want to tell you, that's very unusual within our space for people to take brand new technology within a week of release and to put it into a public format for everybody to digest. I mean, you really shouldn't have anything to hide at that point.
I was just going to say, to be able to launch tech at that point, you got nothing to hide. Totally.
You got to be right there. But what's happened? This evolution. So I'm going to take a step back and let's talk about Halo real quick, and because Halo is one of the most powerful brands in skin today. And when we launched TRIBRID, we realized that we want to build on the digital crumb trail and the legacy of Halo and all of the fantastic blogs and advocate support that's out there digitally. We wanted to carry that forward. That brand is powerful, and we wanted to level it up. We wanted to one up it. And when we go back to the hybrid release, it was the first time in aesthetic medicine where a company released a technology that delivered the laser energy from two different wavelengths, two different types of lasers into the same channel at the same time. Basically, that means the exact same spot within microseconds. You'd have one laser fire, and then you'd have another that would go with coincident delivery in the exact same spot. Very, very big advancement in terms of how software and computer technology enables us to achieve that feat. But with the hybrid release, we just celebrated Halo's 10-year anniversary in 2024. So in 2014, when we released Halo, it became a game changer for Sciton because a number of things had happened in the environment. Number one, when we introduced it, we really just wanted to have what was termed a non-ablative wavelength, a wavelength that did not physically disrupt the surface of the skin like our traditional 2940 nanometer ablative wavelength in full field, treating the entire face, or fractional little dots, if you will. We wanted to have a non-ablative solution with less downtime. What we did is we optically multiplexed the 1470 nanometer laser energy with the 2940 nanometer laser energy, a non-ablative and an ablative laser, and we used the ablative laser in a sparing format, a minor dose. We combined the two, and what happened that completely knocked us off our socks was we got beautiful corrective style results. We wanted to just have a kind of a no downtime entry, but what turned the industry on its head was the fact that not only did we have the ability to have less downtime, but we were doing things to treat rhytids, fine lines, wrinkles, if you will, and make these great changes to the skin without the downtime profile that people would expect for that level of change. We were seeing better results than fractionated CO2 lasers with a fraction of the downtime or the morbidity experience, coupled with the fact that a CO2 fractionated laser is a commodity. You know, there's no brand affinity, there's no customer loyalty, there's a lot of, hey, who does it and who offers it the cheapest? Whereas people were seeking out Halo by name. And big part of that came from organic celebrity testimonials that we didn't pay for, that we just saw pop up in popular culture. I have to say rest in peace Ozzy Osbourne, because one of the big breakthroughs at that time in 2014, 2015 range was on The View. Sharon Osbourne shared that she loved her Halo treatment and that she was having Ozzy get Halo treatments. And that was just one. I could go on and on and on with the celebrity affinity for Sciton brands and Halo in particular. But that was so disruptive to the industry. There was nothing like it at that moment. And the staying power over a decade, award after award, year after year, which brought us to 2025 in TRIBRID. And what happened in between Halo and TRIBRID was right in the neighborhood of the pandemic, we released our MJewel platform with Moxie, a 1927 nanometer wavelength that has a very, very high affinity for absorption in water in the surface of the skin, which we term a gentle laser.
Which I actually had last year on my birthday, and I was able to enjoy my birthday dinner that same day. So it is nice having these gentle options too.
I love Moxie, and Moxie is such a popular resurfacing laser, a gentle format laser. Now the neat thing is I think we were the third company to release this particular style of resurfacing wavelength. The Moxie brand became queen, and it became the consumer favorite because of the advantages it had associated with better results, et cetera. But in between Halo and TRIBRID, we released Moxie. And Moxie has got a beautiful place in the armamentarium of a clinic or a skin expert to meet a beautiful need for treating pigment and glowing up the skin, treating skin texture brilliantly in a recovery format that is a piece of cake. So fast forward to TRIBRID. We wanted to be the first to take that Halo technology and introduce that Moxie wavelength into the same delivery system. So you have the ability to offer with TRIBRID our 2940 wavelength, which is absolutely brilliant. 10 times, it's the most highly absorbed in water of any wavelength. What that means is it second it sees water in the skin, it ablates it, it vaporizes it. Okay. In addition to the 1927 nanometer wavelength, which histologically functions at a slightly deeper level, beautiful for targeting pigment, that prior generations of ablative lasers, you just had to be more aggressive to go there. So more morbidity, more depth, not ideal. Coupled with the 1470, which has a deeper penetrating wavelength, which is fantastic for treating collagen at deeper levels for firming. And what you have is, with TRIBRID, is the first laser in the world that treats every layer of the skin at the exact same time. The 2940 effectively addressing the epidermis, the 1927 treating the papillary dermis, and the 1470 treating the reticular dermis. And it does so in a manner which is brilliant. And it's not just like stacking the lasers too, because over the last couple years, we've had people that own our MJewel with Moxie, along with our Jewel X with Halo, layering them. So you do a Moxie and then do a Halo on top. What we're doing now is the computer is delivering the wounds specifically as we wish. So when you look at what's happening histologically, you will see that when we want coincident delivery, which is a 2940 wound with a 1470 wound at the same time, we can layer out the Moxie wounds all around that. And the end response is amazing, breathtaking outcomes, treating every layer of the skin in a single treatment. It's actually more comfortable with less downtime, and I'm happy to talk about that as well. And the speed of treatment is just lights out, which increases throughput. I'm actually I had my first TRIBRID this weekend. I had my neck treated. I am about, let's see, I did this on Sunday, so here we are on Wednesday. We're about 4 days out, and it's been a piece of cake recovery experience. I just have a little bit of elastin nectar on. That's all I'm using, in addition to my sun protection when I go on my runs and whatnot. But what I found from experiencing the treatment and juxtaposing with Halo, because we juiced up the 1470, it's almost 2 times more powerful. We doubled up the Moxie, so our traditional Moxie used to be 20 millijoules at 20% density. We now do 40, we can now go up to 40 millijoules, 40% density. That makes it the most powerful in its class, the most powerful 1927 in its category, going up to 40 millijoules. But what shocked me about the procedure, and I'll say I did it a little bit, I did it in a non-traditional format because I was emceeing this event and I wanted to, the machines were so busy with our providers that wanted to get their hands on them, and I wanted a treatment. So I went to Dr. Rob. I'm like, can I get a treatment? And he's like, we can do it right now. I'm like, do I have time for topical? He's like, no. So again, I don't recommend that people, follow this path, but I had no topical, just cold air blowing with the Zimmer, treated my neck. It was 2 times faster than Halo. The throughput made it much more comfortable, twice as fast, makes the patient be able to experience the intensity of the treatment much more readily. And then what was shocking to me was afterward, I had a bright red neck like I always do. My skin is fair. I blow up like a canary, but I had a bright red neck. But what fascinated me was how quickly the intense heat sensation that normally I would carry for hours and hours and hours was just a matter of that time, because you had the 2940 channels which actually allow heat to escape from deeper layers to the surface, and providing cooling to your system naturally. So it was fantastic. I thought the experience was great. But what we've done is we've hit the nail on the head. We have the holy grail of utilizing a sophisticated delivery system to treat every layer of the skin faster than ever before, more comfortable than ever before, and with a differentiated brand that nobody can offer except for Sciton. TRIBRID is trademarked. Our prior hybrid technology was not. That's generic nomenclature. TRIBRID is trademarked. So this is a really special category and a tremendous advantage for our customers that are early adopters across the world.
You mentioned a particularly interesting and exciting world in the space of biohacking, and that's stacking. And when we stack different things in our lifestyle with purifying our environment from air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, eating the right foods, then looking at detoxing, then potentially things like GLPs and peptides, which I'm actually speaking this weekend on, and then really reducing that overall inflammation in the body, coupling rejuvenation alongside that, you're going to get better results when your body's actually in better shape. So with stacking these things in a laser rejuvenation sense, it just makes more sense that in one treatment, you're basically getting 3 treatments. And you also mentioned something really interesting, that in the skin and rejuvenation laser world, the injectable world, there's always new versions of products and procedures that it takes time to hone. So for the Halo TRIBRID to be this next generation of where things initially were when you were talking about the CO2 lasers, and there were some things that we saw down the line with how the skin recovered, and where we are now is very exciting. Faster recovery, as you mentioned, basically getting 3 in 1 with the different wavelengths, highlighting the tissue repair in the different levels of the skin. So thinking collagen and elastin, while also being able to cover pigmentation, which is huge. This is massive. This is completely disrupting the industry. And for those of you listening, this is legit disrupting the industry. I just wanted to emphasize that. So now that you've essentially disrupted the intense pulse light industry with the BBL Heroic, so faster full body treatments, essentially, like I said, I just had my full upper body the other day, and more precise, more comfortable. I actually love the feeling of getting my BBL treatments. And now we have the Halo TRIBRID, which is just this next generation for thickening up the skin, getting that collagen and elastin, reducing the size of pores. Think glassiness to the skin. Think clarity to the skin. I can't help but want to ask you this question now, Robbie. In your perspective, where are lasers and energy device technologies heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
You know, we've got some really neat stuff in the works. I really think like from the first foundation for where we're going to be in the next 5 years, I think really has to do with helping individuals that are seeking these treatments or providers that are adopting these treatments into their clinics understand fact from fiction. I'll just be real. In our industry, there's a ton of noise. Somebody will say something that sounds good. Next thing you know, you'll have 5 different companies that are adapting, similar nomenclature. So I think there's a lot of noise out there. I think there's a lot of confusion. And I think in 5 years, I feel like the level of education that the client will have, they will know, or the patient will have, they will know when they're rolling into a clinic that they need to make sure that that clinic has state of the art. They need to make sure that the clinic has Ferrari, if you will, for their skin versus, wow, they've got the sedan, totally different, right? So I think that's really something that's on the horizon. But also automation, how we carried forward BBL Heroic with practical automation, meaningful practical automation that really changed how we could deliver procedures and benefited not just the provider, but also the patient experience. I think you're going to continue to see big steps in automation where delivery systems go as far as robotic, you name it. But the way that we have the ability to make multiple technologies, multiple wavelengths work together, you get a much more synergistic response that is actually, and this is the part that's wild, that's actually gentler, kinder to the skin, a better patient experience with results that it's not like 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 + 1 equals, infinity, if you will. Because what I'm seeing in the market right now, you don't have to go too far on TikTok to see how viral CO2 fractionated lasers are. And the reality is these devices are single wavelength. They've got indiscriminate heat delivery, which is not a good thing. They're being manufactured by upwards of 40 different manufacturers from around the world. I mean, you've got devices that'll come from Tijuana, devices that come from China, Korea, Italy, you name it. All these devices are coming in, and they're really easy to make and they're cheap to make, that enable the manufacturers a super high gross margin. And somewhere between now and then, they're popular again. And I see these individuals that treat their face and they're happy to show that their face is totally beat up. Look, mom, I got an aggressive treatment. The fact of the matter is, you don't have to get knocked out, look like a knockout. All right. And I will reserve the very high morbidity technology that we offer for people that want to remove 30 years from their face. They want to remove very deep etched vertical lip lines, smoker's lines, serious photo damage and rhytids. I mean, you're talking, if you want to take someone who's 70 and have them look 50, we've got a laser for that, and you are going to recover. You are going to have morbidity and a recovery window that by the time you get to your end result, it's totally worth it. But today's day and age, the movement towards rejuvenation is real. And your first laser should not be an aggressive CO2 fractionated laser. It should be a step forward with a broadband light device like Heroic, moving into the next step with a gentle polishing tool like Moxie, carry forward to TRIBRID. There's so many ways to layer it so that by the time you get to later ages, the later point in your life, you don't have to go for the knockout. You don't have to skip from 0 to surgery. You have the ability to do things to maintain your skin tone quality and continue to encourage neocollagenesis, like you said, from head to toe, to get ahead of it. And I think that's really where we're going. I mean, we see it. You go to the dentist routinely to have your teeth taken care of. You really want to take care of your body, you're going to go to the gym routinely. Lasers are in their infancy. Lasers and lights are in their infancy in terms of practitioners being able to offer these solutions to their patient base at a much, much earlier point in life to remedy the need or at least elongate the need for surgical intervention or for more aggressive intervention. That to me is really where the future is, and we're going to do our part to help the world understand that some of these single wavelength fad lasers are exactly that. They're fads, and there's a whole lot of marketing physics out there as well, where it's just there's not a high degree of ethics and a commitment to always representing factually where you are. And that's where Sciton is. People that seek out our brands will see that how we approach this space is entirely different. We don't chase fads for money. We will not quick release a product just because it's hot. We won't. We will release devices that are proven, tried and true in their class. And one thing that cracked me up recently with Hobart, I was on a call with Jim recently, and his big thing now is a 10-year test. He doesn't want to build anything that's not going to stand for 10 years and beyond. And that's something in this industry which is really rare. You see the fads come and go. It's like Groundhog Day. CO2 lasers were really on trend in 2008. They disappeared while RF microneedling devices got popular. Now what's happened? The same people that sold RF microneedling devices, nobody wants them anymore. So now they're selling CO2. They pulled it out of the woodwork. They dusted it off, and there's just a lot of it out there. So that's our job, to help create awareness within the consumer population as to what the differences are between all of these options, and to ethically help guide patients to find the right practitioner that is going to really help them, meet their skin goals, but do so in the format and in an artistic format where they've got all the tools at their disposal. They've got a palette with beautiful paints and brushes, not one hammer and the entire world's a nail. And that's what you have with CO2 lasers right now.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that and this whole combination approach. And I would just like to echo that starting in 2018, I had patients coming to see me from across the globe: France, Germany, Dubai, New York, California, Vancouver, Toronto, all over the place. So then I started to actually do virtual skin consults for people all over the place. And depending on where they were, certain technologies were available. And so that would be actually my role, is and still is, to guide on what's going to address those particular skin and rejuvenation goals that's going to be in alignment with their values, their budget, their lifestyle. And you mentioned something interesting as well, the 10-year rule. I tend to, same as you, same as Sciton, not jump on the bandwagon of anything that's brand new. It has to really stand the test of time. And of course, with Sciton being around for 20 years now, being a lead innovator of looking at, okay, what's available? How can we make this better? This is the progression of what's happened with the medical aesthetics industry. And we're on this precipice. My prediction is in 5-10 years, Sciton's going to make some type of capsule that we're just going to stand in, and it's going to take care of the reds, the browns, the collagen. That's my prediction. We actually saw that in a movie of a woman getting into a bath and then emerging looking decades younger. This is a very exciting time for us to consider our cellular wellness, our metabolic wellness, our muscle mass, which, as you mentioned, is very important, our skincare routines at home, our healthy living lifestyle habits, and of course, getting some rejuvenation. And the rejuvenation algorithms that I publish in my papers on eye rejuvenation and jawline rejuvenation, and my latest paper on how we can basically rejuvenate our cells and our metabolism through reducing inflammation. It's working in the medical aesthetic space, in my opinion, from least invasive to most invasive. That's kind of the algorithm that I stand by, and not doing things that are gimmicky. And, the BBL heroic, that's just the next generation of the BBL, and then the BBL hero. Now it's the heroic. And with the Halo TRIBRID, we've had the Moxie, we've had the Halo, and now we have the Halo TRIBRID. So the tech that you're speaking to isn't brand new to the marketplace. It's gone through the rigors of technological advancement and honing of the product itself, but also the delivery. So that's one of the reasons why I don't jump on the bandwagon of these things that are gimmicky, because they have to go through these processes. We've seen neuromodulators come onto the marketplace in the 90s, right?
Yep.
Actually,
Yep.
same with some peptides too. And it's taken decades to really hone how it's provided to get those great results. So I love what you're doing. As you mentioned, that combination approach, depending on what we want to target, is really what's going to give those long lasting results. And yes, there are some other options in the laser space to do kind of more of that decades revitalization. And even before a facelift, considering supporting the wellness of the skin,
Oh, yes.
clearing the sun damage, promoting
Yeah.
that collagen and elastin is even going to set the stage for better surgical results. So
Yep.
I'd love
And
to,
recovery as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
faster. I mean, that's everything. And having been a provider since 2011, I've seen what happens when certain people have had certain technologies and the skin actually just doesn't look right. It can end up looking thin like an eggshell, just looks a little bit weird. We call this
Yes.
the tissue remodeling. And
Yep.
what we desire to achieve is just really healthy, youthful, glassy looking skin by helping to actually optimize the function of the skin itself, which is the largest organ of the body. So I'm a
Correct.
huge fan of laser tech. I'm a huge fan of light-based modalities, putting energy into the tissue in a specific way to get a beautiful result. And you're kind of putting in you're essentially investing in your skin health, which I've been doing for well over a decade myself and have been able to reap the benefits of laser skin rejuvenation. So, Robbie, do you have any closing words for us here today?
Well, first off, I loved this experience, Rachel, and head to toe, you nailed it. I think everybody out there should be thinking, it's back in the day, it used to just be from the mandible up. Now it's like skin health from head to toe matters, and having the right technologies to do that. And when you have the ability to stack BBL heroic technology with Moxie, Halo, or state of the art TRIBRID technology, it does beautiful things. And these wavelengths and the delivery systems enable you to get below the mandible in a safe format. Final words for today. I just want to just share gratitude to everybody for tuning in to this beautiful podcast. I want to thank you for having me on today to represent my Sciton family and to share about a company that I deeply love and an industry that I grew up in. And I just want to encourage everybody, do your homework. When you are in an environment where you're looking at what are the options for your skin, do your homework. It's simple. Don't just trust that, hey, we've got a great device and it'll work for you. Look and check out what that device is. Understand the device. Read some reviews, check out some blogs, look at how long it's been commercially available, how many before and after photos are available that you can rapidly digest. And if it's something that is kind of flying under the radar and it's not very established, then you deserve better for your skin. But yeah, the future's bright, and let's get you at a skin CL. Let's do this live. This would be fun.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute honor having you here to join us on the School of Radiance podcast. Rob Brindley from Sciton. And as I mentioned before, I've had the opportunity to be part of the family now for about a year myself as a speaker and trainer. And it's just been a great experience. I use these technologies myself too. And what you mentioned about how to sift through the noise in the medical aesthetics industry, check out the description of this episode. I have lots of different resources to support you at home on your rejuvenation journey, from one-on-ones to tutorials to also the icing on the cake. How can we stack all these things together to get the best results? And of course, be sure to share and subscribe to the podcast here and check out what Rob's up to online. He makes this whole aging process fun. What's new and innovative? What can we do to better ourselves to both look and feel our best? And to bring it all home, Robbie, with what you mentioned, the better we all look and feel, the more radiant we're going to be. we have this beautiful shine to us, this beautiful glow. I happen to have my BBL Heroic glow right now. And this has a beautiful ripple out effect to others that we engage with in both a personal and a professional capacity. So even if you don't have the funds right now to invest in laser rejuvenation, start with some of the basics of your at-home healthy living, your at-home skincare, really taking care of yourself. And then when the time comes, invest in the right technologies. And what's exciting, again, I'm just going to reiterate this, with the Halo TRIBRID, you're basically getting three treatments in one, which is very exciting. So big time money saver as well for the consumer, and just getting those better results, which is really at the end of the day what drives you and I, is what's going to give us the results and what can we stack that's just very efficient. So thank you so much, Rob, for joining us here on the show. And of course, this is not medical advice. This is educational information only. If you think you have a medical condition, you must seek the guidance of a licensed physician. So here you have it, everybody. A first look at the Halo TRIBRID, the most disruptive skin laser technology happening right now, and the future is very bright. Thank you, Robbie, for joining us here on the show.
Thank you.